أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Previously we examined the infallibility of prophets. We discussed a number of rational, logical proofs that necessitate the infallibility of divine guides. We also examined a number of verses from the Holy Quran that establish the infallibility of the Prophet. There's one very important discussion when it comes to the infallibility of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and that is called Sahw and Nabi. Sahw in Arabic means to forget or make a mistake. If you've ever heard the phrase sajdata as-sahw, if someone makes a mistake in their salah by mistakenly adding something in their prayers, if it's not involving one of the pillars like adding an extra ruku', for example, that invalidates salah. If it's something else, or you forget to do something in salah, like the tashahhud. You're supposed to do it in the second rak'ah, the person forgot. Whenever we add or subtract anything from salah, we have to do sajdata as-sahw. They are two sajdas that we do after the salah. Why are they called sajdata as-sahw? Because we are prostrating to compensate for that mistake which we committed in salah, because we forgot in salah. So sahw in Arabic means to forget. Now, there is a discussion in theology on whether the Prophet forgets or not, whether did he actually forget in his life or not. When we examine the Sunni schools of thought, we see that, generally speaking, they believe the Prophet did make mistakes and he did forget. I'll share with you a couple of narrations from Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, which indicate the Messenger of God did make mistakes. So Bukhari and Muslim narrate this hadith. Abu Dawood narrates this hadith from Imran ibn Husayn, a companion of the Prophet. He says in this hadith, the Messenger of God was traveling with us, but then they overslept in the morning such that they missed the morning prayer. Then once the sun rose and they felt the heat of the sun, they woke up. The Messenger of God said, let's leave this area, and he commanded Bilal to do the adhan. This is a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim which claims that the Messenger of God made a mistake or he forgot by oversleeping in the morning during a trip, and he missed the morning prayers. When they woke up because of the heat of the sun, he commanded Bilal to do the adhan, and they prayed the 2 rak'ah of the morning prayer, qada. So this is one hadith that Bukhari and Muslim have narrated, which claim that the Messenger of God forgot, he made a mistake, he overslept. There is another hadith which Bukhari and Muslim have narrated. This time, this hadith is attributed to Abu Hurairah. He says the Messenger of God prayed Salat al-Asr, not while traveling, while they were at home. Now, how many rak'ah is Salat al-Asr? 4. He says the Messenger of God prayed 2 rak'ahs. So when the Prophet said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, at the end of the second rak'ah, and he supposedly finished his salah, Dhul Yadayn got up. One of his companions, by the title of Dhul Yadayn, he got up. He tells him, O Messenger of God, is there a reason why you shortened your prayer? Or did you forget and you made a mistake? The Prophet said, neither. I did not shorten my prayer, neither did I forget. He said, no, I am confirming that you prayed 2 rak'ahs. So you either shortened it deliberately, you received some sort of revelation, or you forgot. So the messenger of God, he came to his companions and he asked them, is what he's saying true? Did I shorten my prayer? They said, yes, you did. You only prayed 2 rak'ahs. Then the messenger of God, he got up and he just completed 2 additional rak'ahs. So he did not start over, he just continued. And then at the end, he did the 2 sajdas of Sahw, sajdata as-Sahw, to compensate, for this mistake that he did in his salah. So these are a couple of narrations. There are many more, of course, in Sunni books. These are a couple of narrations in Bukhari and Muslim which indicate the messenger of God did actually forget and make mistakes. So they are of the opinion, most Sunni schools of thought, that a messenger of God can make mistakes like these. Now, what are our observations regarding these narrations? The issue of Sahw al-Nabi, the Prophet forgetting or making mistakes. The first observation that we have over here is that these narrations contradict the Holy Quran. And whenever a hadith opposes the spirit of the Quran or contradicts the Quran, we dismiss it. We do not accept it. For example, we have a number of verses that say the messenger of God has been protected by God from forgetting. سَنُقْرُؤُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. We are teaching you the Holy Quran and other teachings, you will never forget. So how can the Prophet forget? Yes.
Could they come with the verse right after that?
إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. Now, they have argued this point, that the verse states, سَنُقْرُؤُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. You shall not forget, إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ, except that which God chooses, or God wills. In order for us to understand this statement, we have to examine similar verses in the Holy Quran to see what does God mean by this exception. There is a verse in the Holy Quran which is talking about the believers being in paradise for eternity. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the believers being, Assalamu alaikum, the believers being in paradise perpetually, خالدين فيها, إلا ما شاء الله, except that which God wills. So what does this exception mean in the Quran? Is God saying that they will be in heaven for eternity, but there is some sort of exception there? Maybe some of them not. Maybe later God will choose to annihilate paradise? No. This exception means that while the believers on the Day of Judgment will be in heaven for eternity, don't think that this is out of God's control. That's it. He's stuck with this system. I will be in heaven for eternity and God no longer has any control over me and my existence. No. The Quran is saying, look, you will be in heaven for eternity. But every day it will be by God's will to continue that eternity. So don't think that God has lost control. Because one could make this argument, you know what? In paradise, God no longer has control over us. Because He's already told us, informed us, that we'll be there forever. So He can't change that. He can't do anything about that. The Quran says, yes, you will be there forever, but it's by God's will. It's His will to keep you there forever. And every day, He'll continue, He'll extend that will. But if He wants, He could annihilate you. Same idea over here. Don't think that the messenger of God does not forget out of his own effort. It's by the effort of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping him and protecting him. And had it not been for God, he can make mistakes just like other human beings. So when Allah makes an exception like that, this is a symbolic exception in the Arabic language, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's protecting him from forgetting. It's not out of his own effort. Illa masha'Allah. So we have parallels in the Holy Quran. Look at that verse which speaks about the believers being eternal in heaven. Yet Allah makes an exception like that. And obviously we know there is no exception to that. The Quran is very clear that they'll be there forever. There are no exceptions. So what does that exception mean? By God's power, by God's will. That's the meaning of it. Yes.
Could we understand it as the person who's arguing that, oh, Allah can't do anything, could they perhaps adjust their argument and say, well, because Allah has promised us, Allah, Allah, He doesn't go back on His promise, and that's why it will go. Now, this verse can come and confirm it that, yeah, because Allah keeps willing it, that's why paradise will remain and this system will remain. Could that be an interpretation?
For the verse of paradise or for this verse?
Well, technically also for this verse too, for forgetting, if it's the same concept of illa masha'Allah.
So basically when it comes to the verse of paradise, it is true that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of His wisdom will not break His promise. But don't think that God is now stuck and He can't do anything. You believers in paradise, the reason why you'll exist there every day and get blessings every day is because every day God is sending new sustenance. Our existence is a type of existence where you need continued sustenance from God to keep it going. It's like a device that's, exactly, hooked into a wall, it's getting power. It's continuing as long as it's hooked up. But if you remove it, it cannot exist on its own. It can't generate energy on its own. So this illa is saying exactly that. That yes, God has promised you and He doesn't break His promise. But remember that over there every day, it's by God's daily decision and grace that you'll continue to exist. So don't think that on the Day of Judgment, that's it. God is not doing anything. No, He's doing something every day over there. Same idea applies to this. Don't think that the messenger of God has this power not to forget out of his own. Every single second, he's being protected by God. So that's one verse. Another verse is in Surah An-Najm, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Everything the Prophet says is revelation from God, is being guided by God. So when the Prophet denies that he prayed 2 rak'ahs initially, right? To Dhul Yadayn, he tells him, no, I didn't, neither that nor this. Then when he saw everybody is telling him, no, you did, he accepted. Well, that goes against this verse. When the Prophet said, no, I didn't, that's a false statement. Now they could argue, well, he didn't mean it, but in the end it's a false statement. And that is not compatible with the verse that states, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Very simple. So that's our first observation. That is, these verses, these claims, these hadiths contradict the Holy Quran. Number two, they contradict many, many other narrations that confirm the messenger of God. In fact, prophets, even imams of Ahlul Bayt, they don't forget. They don't make mistakes like these. So now you have a contradiction. Assuming these hadiths have a good chain, the most you could say is what? There's a contradiction between two hadiths. So when they both contradict each other, they cancel each other out. They both are dropped. We don't have any proof that the Prophet makes mistakes. That's the second observation. Number three, these narrations that speak about the Sahw of the Prophet forgetting, they themselves are contradictory. When you put them together, like 7, 8 of these narrations, they give you conflicting reports and details. For example, some of them say it was the Asr prayer that the Prophet made that mistake in. Some say it was the Dhuhr prayer. Some say he added 1 rak'ah to the salah. Some say he deleted 1 rak'ah or 2 rak'ahs. It's the same incident they're talking about. And some say, when Dhul Yadayn informed him that, the Prophet got angry. He became angry and he almost rebuked him. Why are you even pointing that out? Then when he saw the companions all agreeing that he made a mistake, then he changed his mind. See, all of this is just not possible. It's contradictory. It's telling you this was fabricated. Or most likely it was fabricated. We don't have one version of this event. Each hadith that talks about this alleged sahw of the Prophet gives you a different version. That in itself raises doubts about the validity of these claims. So that's the third observation. Now here's the very important observation. These hadiths that I just recited for you from Bukhari and Muslim, by the way, don't be shocked, these same hadiths, not the same exact wording, but the same idea has been mentioned by Shaykh As-Saduq and also Al-Kulayni in the book of Kafi. So we also have these hadiths in Shia books. Yes, you have more of them in Sunni books, but you also find similar hadiths in Shia books. What's our response to that? In fact, Shaykh As-Saduq and his teacher Ibn al-Walid, they were of the opinion that the Prophet did do the sahw like that. He did make a mistake in his prayers. He did, oversleep in the morning during that incident. However, the way they explain it is this. There's a word called sahw, which means you forget. And then there is the word isha, which comes from the form if'al. Basically, their idea is isha. God made the Prophet forget. He did not forget on himself or by the shaitan, because we have narrations that tell us one reason why people forget is because the shaitan makes them forget, right? So it wasn't because of weak memory, shaitan, or any other factor. God made him forget so he would oversleep or he would make a mistake in his salah. Why? Their argument is that God had a reason. The reason why God did that is so nobody takes the Prophet as a deity, that he's God or he's divine or he's son of God. The Prophet, as great as he is, in the end he's what? A human being. So he forgets. In fact, some of those hadiths indicate, that the Prophet forgot so that if we forget, we don't think we're doomed. If one day I oversleep, don't think that's it, you're doomed, you're no longer a believer, and that's it, and you lose hope in God's mercy. Well, no, it happens. That's part of being human. Sometimes you're not deliberate. Sometimes you're very responsible, you put the alarm, you really do care about your salah. It just happened so that you overslept. Okay, it's not the end of the world. Allah is merciful. And the proof happened to the Prophet. That's their argument. Or to show the Prophet is human so people don't worship the Prophet like other prophets were worshipped, like Prophet Isa alayhi salam. So their argument is that God is the one who made him forget. So don't come and tell me, well, how can I trust the Prophet anymore? Because look, it's not the Prophet out of his own whom he's forgetting. It's by the guidance of God. So if God chose to make him forget, well, what's my concern? It's not shaitan playing around with him. For me now to be concerned, it's shaitan inserting things in religion. No. It was by the direct action of God that he forgot. This is their argument, and this is how they rationalize these hadiths. The vast majority of Shia scholars have rejected these hadiths in our books, including Shaykh Al-Mufid. Shaykh Al-Mufid, who came after them, he's their student, he actually wrote a treatise, a chapter refuting the idea of Sahw al-Nabi. Now, by the way, Shaykh As-Saduq, but specifically his teacher Ibn al-Walid, he was so, concerned about the Sahw thing, he claimed in his book, and this is a big claim, that any person, any Shia who denies that the Prophet forgot, that's one level of ghulu and exaggeration. That you're raising the Prophet too high. He's a human, so he might make a mistake by the order of God or by the guidance of God. So that was their belief. If you come and say, no, the Prophet does not make a mistake, they're like, okay, you're kind of exaggerating here. This is one form of ghulu. So this was their opinion. But now we'll examine whether these hadiths are valid or not. Yes?
Has anyone in their camp or they themselves ever posited proof positive that maybe Allah made the Prophet do that because he wanted to teach the Muslims about how to make up qada or make up such a thing as sahw?
Yes, that's part of the argument. The Prophet forgot to show Muslims you're not doomed, and all you do is just do the qada and sajdatay sahw. If you're a responsible Muslim, you care about your salah, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving, and you did not commit a sin because you did not deliberately oversleep. So when you get up, just do what the Prophet did. Do the adhan, do the qada, do the sajdatay sahw. And if the sajdatay sahw, not for the qada, for shortening the prayer accidentally, and you're fine. Yeah, that's exactly their argument. That was God's way of showing us when you make a mistake, not deliberately of course, there's a way to salvage that mistake. There is a way to compensate. So this was their argument. Now the vast majority of our scholars, in fact today it's the consensus of scholars, they reject these hadiths. On what basis do we reject them? Number one, taqiyya. Remember, these hadiths first came by Sunni narrators and Sunni schools of thought in their formative period. They strongly believed in this. So the Imams alayhimus salam would constantly be asked about these questions. There were spies, people monitoring them. And if you as a Shia clearly denied that the Prophet made a mistake like that, you were easily identified as a Shia, as a follower of Ja'far ibn Muhammad, and you'd be persecuted. So the Imams, even though we do have in our sources these hadiths, assuming the Imams did actually say them, they said them out of taqiyya. Then, later, privately, they explained to their companions, no, this is something we reject. And the Imams actually attacked those who really believe in the Sahw of the Prophet. The Imam said, God is greater, more honorable than sending us a messenger who'd make a mistake like that. So the Imams sometimes, due to political persecution and pressure, they had to say something that would go in line with mainstream Sunni views in order to save their companions and to save their lives, because these were sensitive issues. When you have the state adopting this view, if you don't agree with the state, or you come out and openly reject what the state is teaching, you're in trouble. So that's one point over here, that the Imams alayhimus salam, they said these hadiths out of taqiyya. Secondly, as we examined, these hadiths contradict the Quran. They contradict other sahih narrations that we have, which state the Messenger of God does not forget. So even if you have traditions that do state that, there's a contradiction over here, so we have to drop these narrations. They clearly violate the Quran, they clearly violate other narrations from the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them. And those narrations that establish the Messenger of God does not make mistakes, they're more in number. So for these, reasons, and a number of other reasons, the scholars and ulama, they reject the idea of Sahw al-Nabi. But remember one thing, even when you ask a Shaykh al-Saduq, what his opinion is, he doesn't believe that the shaitan caused him to forget, or out of just pure human error. No. They believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was by His will for the Prophet to forget. So this actually is better than the Sunni opinion, which states, no, he just made a mistake. In fact, the shaitan could have, played with his mind to have him forget and make a mistake. That is something no Shia scholar accepts or agrees with. The shaitan has no authority to do something like that with a ma'soom, with a messenger of God. So even those very few scholars who do accept these narrations, they believe it was by the guidance of God and the authority of God. So if God is supervising it, there's no really concern. It's His religion, it's His plan. He is the one who made the Prophet forget. So Allah, whenever He makes someone forget, well, it's for a good purpose. So I don't have any reason now to doubt the Prophet later. Yes, if the Prophet can fall to human error or shaitan, that would weaken my confidence in the Prophet. Because then if the Prophet is teaching me something, I could always have the doubt, wait a minute, maybe he's making a mistake again. Maybe I'm following the shaitan now. The shaitan is now inspiring words or injecting words into the mouth of the Prophet. See, even as-Saduq, he disagrees with that. He says, no, the shaitan had no role in this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who made him forget, just to show us he's human and to show us that if we fall into the same error, what should we do? So this is called isha, not sahw. To make someone to forget, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them forget. So yes, we do have some narrations, even in our best sources like the book of Kafi. Even the chain is not a bad chain. It's a pretty good chain, meaning it's a reliable chain. It's not a strong chain, but it's a valid chain. So it's either taqiyya, or it contradicts other hadiths, and so we just drop it. Maybe these were fabricated. Maybe some of these companions made a mistake. We don't know the circumstances of how these narrations were recorded and stated. In any case, the vast majority of Shia scholars believe that the Messenger of God did not forget, did not make a mistake like that. In fact, we have hadiths from the Imam alayhi salam. He says, we the infallibles, when we sleep, the eye sleeps, but the heart stays awake. That's why the messengers of God and the Imams, even when they were asleep, they were well aware of their surroundings and what was happening. So if you were there in their presence doing something, talking, they were aware of all of that. We have clear sahih hadiths that the infallibles, when they sleep, the power of their soul is so strong, their presence, is that they were aware of their surroundings. Because remember, according to the Quran, sleep is a type of death, as the Quran states. When people sleep, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withdraws their soul temporarily. Yes, the body, it's in a vegetative state. It's working, the heart is beating. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually takes the soul. And that's why you don't hear, according to our traditions. Because now the soul there's some disconnect between the soul and the body. Then once you start hearing something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends back the soul. So we do have even narrations that the Messenger of God, even when he's sleeping, he's not sleeping like people sleep. He's still aware. So for him to be sleeping and not praying Salat al-Fajr, that's problematic. That's definitely problematic. Any questions on that? So with respect to prophethood, we've examined infallibility and the significance of infallibility, and we've discussed some logical, rational proofs for infallibility. There is one other discussion about prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected them from anything that is a munaffir. A munaffir in Arabic, anything that is repugnant, inappropriate, unattractive, that causes people to be pushed away, and it gives them an excuse not to obey and follow the Prophet. God has protected His messengers from all these things that people find detestable or repugnant. So, what are some examples of that? An example of that is physical deformities. We believe no messenger of God had a physical deformity, such that if someone were to see the Prophet, they kind of feel this repulsion. Not only a physical deformity, but a contagious disease, like leprosy at the time, which was highly contagious, right? You don't want to go anywhere near a leper because that's a fatal illness and it's highly contagious. We believe, according to our traditions, God protected all of His messengers from that so as to not give anyone an excuse for not following the Prophet. Oh, he had a contagious disease and on the Day of Judgment he could argue, well, I really was concerned about my physical safety and health and that's why I didn't go around the Prophet. No. A physical deformity. In many societies, if you have a physical deformity, that's considered what? It could be either a curse in their eyes from God, from idols, from jinn, from whatever it is. They see it as a sign of incompletion, that you're struggling with something, you have a problem, right? There's a curse on you. Well, God protects His prophets from that, so people don't come up with these excuses. Oh, there was a curse on him, a spell on him, he has a physical deformity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not put a messenger in that position so that no one has an excuse. So that when God questions them on the Day of Judgment, why did you not follow Him? They have absolutely no excuse. There's nothing repulsive, repugnant about the Prophet. The Prophets never did anything repugnant. The Imams never did. To the point, now this is a very small example, to the point that Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam states, even on the days, and he's teaching us of course, otherwise we believe the Ahlul Bayt are pure, even to this extent. He says, even on the days that I eat food with garlic or onion, the Imam alayhi salam would leave the city of Medina. He had a farmland outside the city of Medina. He would go there for 3 days. Then if he wanted to eat those foods for immunity or, there are health benefits, then he would come back after 3 days. So that no one has an excuse, I didn't go and meet the Imam because of so-and-so. To that point, the Prophets were sensitive. And the Imams were sensitive. So that no one has an excuse to say, I didn't go and meet the Imam, even to this point, where I found, an unfavorable scent. Yes?
Could I have been kind of problematic because at the same time they need to strike a balance with normality and being normal, and sometimes if they're too perfect, could be an issue.
The Imams alayhimus salam are definitely normal from a human perspective. However, they're sensitive and their priority is not their comfort. It's people feeling comfortable around them. I've known scholars, by the way, like that. If they're amongst their people, meeting people every day, they're very careful with what they eat because they know people are meeting me, greeting me, seeing me face to face on a daily basis. So I don't want to put myself in a position where someone is disturbed by what I've eaten. See, that's not being abnormal. That's just being sensitive to people so you don't push anyone away, so you don't inconvenience anyone. So the Prophets and Imams, to that extent, they would be concerned about people not being, repulsed by them. And that's very important. Even wise people do that, let alone a messenger or an imam. So anything that's considered repugnant in society, Allah has protected the Imams and Prophets from. One important discussion is their lineage. To have a pure lineage, pure ancestry, being legitimate, continuations of that lineage. Because in most societies, if someone is illegitimate, how do they view that person? Negatively. Even if that person is not at fault. But people will say, you want me to go and follow an illegitimate person who's claiming to be a prophet? So one reason why all messengers of God have a pure ancestry, there's absolutely nothing repugnant in their ancestry, so as not to push anyone away and to give them an excuse for not following the Prophet or the Imam. And by the way, that is one reason why we believe the fathers, grandfathers and grandparents of prophets were believers. They were not idol worshippers. They were not disbelievers. All of them were believers. We have a number of verses in the Holy Quran that point to that. One of them is verse 219 of Surah Al-Shu'ara, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, هُوَ الَّذِي يَرَاكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you while standing. وَتَقَلُّبَكَ فِي السَّاجِدِينَ. And you being moved in the line of as-sajideen, the prostrators. Well, what does that mean? And Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam gives us a beautiful explanation. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided you. You came from the ancestry, from the line of prostrators, meaning believers. And so your ancestry is pure. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. If you ask many Sunni schools of thought, they will tell you, no, his father was a mushrik. And the Quran condemned him, and he himself condemned his father. His father Azar, Ibrahim alayhi salam told him, believe, I'll do istighfar for you, I'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you. But he kept insisting on disbelief and idol worshipping. In the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Ibrahim, now you have to condemn him. And the Quran tells us in one verse, after Ibrahim realized that his father is not becoming a believer, he's being stubborn and he's insisting on the wrong path, tabarra'a min. He condemned him. Well, see, we have a father of a prophet here who was a mushrik. Our response to that, very briefly, is that this was not his biological father, Azar was his uncle and stepfather. And your stepfather who raises you, who takes care of you, is considered your father in the Arabic language. We use the word ab. The Quran uses the word ab to refer to Azar. Because Ibrahim was orphaned at a young age. He lost his father, Tarukh. Tarukh was his biological father. How can we prove from the Quran that the father, the biological father of Ibrahim was a believer? Yes.
He says, in his dua, he says, "Rabbi ighfirli wa li walidayya."
Ahsant, exactly. He makes a beautiful dua towards the end of his life. See, initially when he was young, the Quran says he condemned him and he told him, I'll no longer pray for you because you are insisting on the path of disbelief. Then in the later part of his life, when he grew old and his bad father supposedly died, he was dead at the time, he makes a dua, Rabbi ja'alni muqim as-salah wa min dhurriyati Rabbana wa taqabbal dua. Oh Allah, make me among those who establish prayer, and also from my progeny. He prayed for his progeny. Oh Allah, accept my dua. And then what? What's the dua that he makes after that? Rabbi ighfirli وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. Oh Allah, forgive me and my two walid. Walid in Arabic is the one who gives birth to you. That's the literal meaning of the word. So others, you can symbolically call them your ab, my father in Arabic. Like your teacher is your ab, your father-in-law is your ab. Symbolically, the one who takes care of you. But not walid. Walid means the one who gives birth. Maybe you can symbolically use it, but it's very unusual to use it in a symbolic sense. Walid means the one who gives birth, the father and the mother. Walid wal walida. In the end of his life, how do we know this was said in the end of his life? Because before that he prayed for who? His progeny. And when did Allah give him Ismail and Ishaq? When he was old, as the Quran states. So he says, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. So he did dua for his parents. Well, I thought his father was mushrik. How did he dua? When Allah prohibited him from doing dua. That in itself is proof that his biological father was a mu'min. وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He mentions the mu'minin after his own father. Can it be possible his father was a mushrik? You pray for your mushrik father, then you pray for the mu'minin? Impossible. And the Quran captures this dua. It confirms it. It sanctions it. That's proof that his father was a believer. Yes.
In Surah Tawbah, where he actually prays for Azar, the very next verse, Allah explains that he only prayed for his father because of the promise.
Because he gave him a promise, right. But then when it became clear to him that he's a disbeliever, he condemned him. So our argument with other schools of thought is that if he condemned him, how is he praying for him at the end of his life? These are two people. That in itself is indication these are two. Azar was not his biological father. Yes.
So normally, when we say رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, is he referring back to when he became an orphan at a young age? Can he, like when you say وَارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا?
Well, this is another dua that's mustahab to recite in qunut. He doesn't say that. He says, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي, oh Allah, forgive me. وَلِوَالِدَيْ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ. And for the believers on the day of judgment when you will, question us. So that's another dua we recite in our qunut. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt have taught us, oh Allah, have mercy on our parents just as they had mercy on us by raising us. But Ibrahim, that's not what he says. He just says, oh Allah, forgive my parents. He doesn't say because they raised me when I was young. So this is proof that the father of prophets are pure, their lineage is pure, and there is nothing repugnant. This is the main idea that we conclude with. The prophets of God are protected from God not only from sins, they're ma'soom, it's a given, even from anything that's repugnant in society. Something that is repulsive. It repels people. Yes, being poor does not repel people. You could be a very wise man, a very good person, and yes, you're not a millionaire. That's not repulsive. Yeah, maybe the rich people don't like that. I'm sure you'll find people coming up with excuses, but these are not valid excuses. We have great leaders in our secular history who are not millionaires. They were poor people, but they had a lot of respect. We're talking about things that society finds repugnant, such that it gives them an excuse not to go after that prophet and follow that prophet. Prophets of God are all protected from that. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل.